My name is Michael Turner. I'm 42, divorced once, and old enough to know when something in my life starts to rot long before it collapses. I live in Phoenix now, burning summers, quiet cul-de-sacs, and people who pretend everything's fine even when it's falling apart behind closed doors. 2 years ago, I met Lauren, 35, social worker, warm voice, the kind of smile that could pull you out of a dark place even if you'd been living there for years. After my divorce, I didn't think I had much left to offer anyone. She'd proved me wrong, or at least I thought she did. We met in the most ordinary way possible: morning coffee, same cafe, same time. She was reading The Body Keeps the Score, and I joked that the book probably knew more about me than my last therapist. She laughed. That was it. One laugh, and suddenly my life felt like it was moving again. Lauren moved in after 9 months. We talked about buying a house, maybe starting fresh somewhere near Flagstaff. I trusted her. Hell, I trusted her more than I trusted myself. But trust, that's a currency people spend too easily. And she had been spending mine long before I realized the account was overdrawn. The first crack appeared on a Thursday night. She said she was staying late at work, court paperwork, difficult case, something like that. I didn't question it. I ordered takeout, watched a game, went to bed. But at 12:47 a.m., she still wasn't home, and a text popped up on her unlocked iPad. He's gone. You can come over. At first, I didn't understand. Then I looked at the contact name. Alan's supervisor. I didn't explode. Didn't scream. Didn't break anything. I just sat there staring at that message like it was a puzzle I could solve if I didn't blink. She came home at 1:30 a.m., smelling like someone else's cologne. She thought I was asleep. She slid into bed and whispered, "Long day," like she expected me to wrap my arms around her. The next morning, I didn't confront her. I made coffee, kissed her forehead, pretended I needed time, space, clarity. Revenge isn't something you rush. It needs direction, precision, and most importantly, patience. So I watched, listened, collected every lie she fed me over the next 2 weeks. And she fed me many, but the truth always slips, even when people think they're careful. My moment came on a Monday afternoon when I drove to her office to leave the lunch she forgot. I wasn't planning anything, just testing a theory. But as soon as I walked in, a receptionist someone new looked up and said, "Are you here to see Lauren?" She and Alan left early. Said they had a private home visit. Private home visit. She didn't even bother hiding it anymore. Something cold opened in my chest, quiet, controlled, almost clinical. I left the office, got into my car, and for the first time since the night I saw that message, I let myself imagine what destroying two people's lives might feel like. Not loud, not dramatic, but slow, calculated, permanent. And that was the moment right there in a parking lot under a burning Arizona sun when I decided I wouldn't confront her. I would dismantle her, piece by piece, life by life, lie by lie. When I got home, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I created a new folder. I named it Restoration Project. Not revenge, not payback, just restoration, fixing the balance she broke. And the first file I added was her supervisor's full name. I didn't touch the folder for 2 days, not because I doubted what I wanted to do. If anything, the desire grew sharper, but because I needed to watch her a little longer. You learn more from people when they think they've already fooled you. They grow careless, comfortable. Lauren had developed a routine: late work nights twice a week, long morning showers where she texted behind the curtain, quick changes of clothes before leaving the house. She thought she was playing a quiet, subtle game. But once you know the rules, it's easy to read the moves. On Friday evening, she said she was going to a coworker's birthday dinner, a woman named Jess, sweet, funny, and according to Instagram, out of town that weekend at a cabin with her fiancé. Lauren didn't know I knew that. She didn't know I checked. She didn't know I'd been checking everything. Before she left, she kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up. she said with a smile that used to make my days better. I smiled back. I won't. The moment the door closed, I opened my laptop and returned to the folder. Alan Hughes, 48 years old, married, 2 kids, supervisor at the Family Services Agency. A man who built a career on ethics, boundaries, and professional accountability. The higher someone stands, the harder they fall. I started with the obvious: social media, public records, professional reviews, boring, predictable. But then I looked deeper. Property records, financial filings, court documents. And that's when I found something small, almost forgettable, but enough. 5 years ago, Alan had been part of a state investigation. Not a major one, but serious enough to leave a paper trail. A missing file, a misreported case. Nothing that could be proven, but enough to raise suspicion. Looks like the perfect man had a history of errors. I took notes, cross-referenced names, collected documents. Piece by piece, I built a timeline. And then I looked for leverage. The next step was Lauren. She had always kept her phone guarded. But people forget that security isn't just in passwords, it's in patterns. I knew her lock code, not because she told me, because I'd seen her enter it 100 times without thinking. I waited until she was in the shower the next morning. I opened her phone, messages, photos, emails, her private chat with Alan. That was the worst part. Not the affair itself, I already knew that. Not the lies, I'd lived with those for months. But the tone. She spoke to him differently. Not like she loved him. Not like she loved me. But like she believed he was more valuable, more important, more successful. Like she was trading up. There were messages about me. How I didn't understand her. How I was too calm. How I wouldn't fight for her. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't change. I didn't feel rage. Just clarity. Something inside me clicked into place. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting our story. Turning me into the placeholder, the safe option. The man you stay with until you find someone better. I put her phone back exactly how it was. Went downstairs, made coffee, pretended nothing happened. But inside, something new had settled in me. Something slow burning. Something surgical. By the time she entered the kitchen in her robe, smiling like she hadn't been trashing me in private messages, I already had the next step planned. I played dumb for another week. Then I took a day off work and drove across town to a building I never thought I'd enter. The Arizona office of the Inspector General. A place where people like Alan usually go only when something has gone very, very wrong. I didn't walk in with accusations. I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't tell them anything about Lauren. I just submitted a packet. Anonymous, organized, documented, dangerous. An investigation wouldn't start immediately, it never does, but it would start, and once that domino fell, every part of his life would start to tilt. When I got home that afternoon, Lauren had left a note on the fridge. Working late. Again, don't stay up. I smiled, not because she lied. I knew she would. Not because she thought I believed her, but because the game had shifted. She thought she was cheating in the shadows. She didn't realize the shadows were mine. The strange thing about revenge is how quickly it becomes routine. At first it felt like strategy, late nights, quiet planning, carefully sorted files. But slowly, it became part of my daily rhythm. Wake up, shower, work, pretend to love her, collect pieces of her life she didn't know she was dropping, sharpen them, put them back in the folder. By the third week, I wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. I was observing her the way a surgeon observes a body he's preparing to open. Detached, focused, almost peaceful. Lauren's lies expanded. So did her confidence. She began coming home later, started wearing new perfume, bought a silk blouse she hid in her car trunk and changed into before work. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she was smarter. She thought she'd already won. And that made every step of my plan easier. On a Wednesday morning, I followed Alan. I'd taken the day off again. Told Lauren I had an early meeting. She didn't question it. She'd barely listened to anything I said anymore. Her mind was somewhere else. Someone else. Alan left his house at 7:50 a.m. Perfect suburban driveway, perfect family car, perfect goodbye to his wife, a quick kiss, a warm smile. The image of a model husband. Funny how people perform when they believe they're not being watched. I tailed him from Scottsdale to downtown Phoenix. He drove straight to work, parked, walked in, nothing abnormal, nothing suspicious, except the way he kept checking his phone, quick glances, nervous swipes, subtle taps. He was waiting for her, and she was probably waiting for him. But I didn't care about their affair. It wasn't the cheating I wanted to destroy. It was the foundation they built it on, their careers, their reputations, their carefully curated lives. I already planted the first seed at the Inspector General's office. Now I needed fertilizer. At 10:14 a.m., Lauren texted me, crazy morning, heading into a meeting. You good? She didn't even bother pretending anymore. Not really. Just keeping the surface calm so she wouldn't feel guilty. I replied, all good. Hope your day goes smooth. A message so normal it almost mocked her normalcy, I realized, is the easiest mask. But what mattered wasn't the text. It was the timing. At 10:15 a.m. Right after she messaged me, she messaged Alan. He won't notice. We're good. I knew she'd send something like that. I knew because the night before, I'd slipped a tiny sensing app onto her phone, something subtle, hidden inside a fake photos backup update. Not malware, nothing illegal, but enough to mirror her notifications to a cloud folder she didn't know existed. Every message, every call, every attached file, straight to me. It was surgical, clean, invisible. At noon they met, not at a motel too obvious. They met at a public park, sitting on a bench like colleagues on lunch break. Professional, innocent, but their feet angled toward each other, their voices soft, their eyes darting around. They weren't bold, they were careful, except they weren't careful enough. I recorded everything from my car across the street, long lens, clean audio pickup, time-stamped. She touched his arm, he brushed her knee. She leaned into him like she used to lean into me when life was still easy. In any other circumstance, it might have hurt. But watching them felt like watching actors in a failed play, predictable, sloppy, almost boring. They didn't know the set was burning around them. That night Lauren came home early, cooked dinner, opened a bottle of wine, acted affectionate, almost too affectionate. She laughed louder, talked more, sat closer. It hit me halfway through dinner. She felt guilty. Guilt makes people generous. She thought cooking for me would erase whatever she'd done that afternoon. She thought a bottle of Cabernet and a warm smile could cover the smell of another man's cologne, still buried somewhere in her memory from hours earlier. She didn't know guilt isn't cleansing. It's revealing. After dinner, she curled up next to me on the couch and rested her head on my shoulder. I miss us, she whispered. Us. The word felt strange leaving her mouth. I gently kissed the top of her head. I miss us too, she smiled, relaxed into me, thought things were safe. While she drifted off half asleep against me, I reached behind her, pulled my phone from the sofa cushion, and uploaded the photos and audio recordings from the day into the Restoration Project folder. 2 new subfolders: Alan, Evidence, Settle, Lauren, Pattern Log 1-3, Watch Her Sleep for a Moment, Peaceful, Content, Comfortable. And I realized something important. People only sleep that peacefully when they believe they're safe. She had no idea the floor beneath her life had already begun to crack. The fall hadn't started yet, but it was coming. I've learned something about people like Lauren and Alan. They don't stop, not because they're brave or reckless, but because they believe they're untouchable. They think the world bends around their wants. They think consequences are for other people, lesser people. And when someone believes they can't fall, that's when the fall hurts the most. By the start of the next week, my plan had evolved from observation to motion. The anonymous report I'd sent about Alan was already logged, I received the automated confirmation through a burner email I created. It would take days, maybe weeks, but once a case number exists, the machine starts grinding. And institutions grind slowly, but they do grind. Meanwhile, Lauren's behavior shifted again. She'd grown cautious, paranoid, even, not because she suspected me, but because Alan was pulling away. I watched the messages. "We need to slow down. You said you'd file those papers by now." My wife's asking questions. This is getting dangerous. The golden rule of adultery. Someone always panics first. Lauren tried to keep him on the hook. She texted him constantly, sent long emotional voicemails, tried convincing him she could handle everything. I saw every attempt, every fear, every desperation. She wasn't a mastermind. She was a gambler who bet her future on a man who was already cashing out. And that told me everything. She didn't love him. She didn't love me. She loved validation, attention, security. Whoever made her feel significant at the moment was the one she'd cling to. So I decided to take that feeling away from her slowly. On Thursday, something rare happened. She left her laptop open on the dining table. A notification popped up. Normally she guarded her electronics like they were state secrets. But today she slipped. Probably because she was too upset to think straight. Her messages with Alan had turned cold overnight. I walked past the table as if I didn't see the screen, but I saw enough. A draft letter, addressed to Human Resources. She was asking to be transferred to another department. The reason she wrote, unhealthy work environment due to inappropriate behavior from my supervisor. I stopped, read it twice. A slow smile formed. She was trying to throw him under the bus before he threw her. They were both scrambling now, chasing shadows, trying to erase tracks that were too deep to hide. But here's the thing, they didn't know I controlled the ground beneath those tracks. I closed the laptop gently, careful not to disturb anything. Then I walked upstairs, grabbed my keys, and drove to a part of Phoenix I rarely visit, a quiet office district near the state buildings. I had a meeting. I didn't schedule it under my name. I used a different one, a generic, forgettable name, and met with a mid-level compliance officer in a small glass-walled conference room, the kind of room that looks harmless until someone walks in holding a folder. I set the folder down. Inside were copies of their messages, the photos from the park, recordings, a timeline, a written statement describing a pattern of misconduct between a supervisor and subordinate, a note expressing concern about ethical violations compromising client safety. I didn't exaggerate anything. I didn't lie. I simply organized the truth in the most damaging way possible. The officer flipped through the pages slowly, eyebrows tightening. "This is extensive," she murmured. "It's all verified," I said calmly. "And more is coming." She nodded, serious now. "This will be handled discreetly." That word discreetly made me want to laugh. People think discretion protects reputations, but what it really does is suffocate people quietly until they break. By the time I drove home, the sun was low. Phoenix looked cold and exhausted, like a city pretending it wasn't falling apart beneath its own heat. Lauren's car wasn't in the driveway, but Alan's. His car was parked 2 blocks away. I noticed it instantly, not because I was looking for it, because once you study someone long enough, their silhouette becomes obvious. He wasn't following me. He wasn't spying. He wasn't even trying to hide. He was sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, hands gripping the wheel like a man whose world was starting to tilt. I parked my car calmly, walked toward my house, didn't even look in his direction. Only when I reached my porch did he step out of the car. "Michael," he called. I turned. He looked destroyed. Dark circles, sweat on his forehead, shirt wrinkled like he'd been sitting there for hours. "We need to talk," he said. I tilted my head. "About what?" He swallowed hard. "You know what?" I didn't answer, didn't nod, didn't look angry or surprised. Just waited. Because silence is a weapon if you know how to use it. His voice broke. "She's losing it, man. She's been calling nonstop. She said, you know, I didn't move. I don't know what you think I know, I said quietly. But I'm not part of your mess. He stepped closer. Desperate. I'm begging you, please just tell her to back off. My wife is starting to question things. My boss wants to meet tomorrow. And someone filed a. He caught himself. I raised an eyebrow. What? He stared at me, really stared. And for the first time, I saw the moment something inside him connected the dots. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. Did you? He began. I cut him off with a soft, steady voice. You should go home, Alan. He froze. Then I added, fix the life you're still lucky enough to have. He didn't argue, didn't threaten, didn't demand answers. He got back into his car and drove off like a man running from a ghost. He wasn't running from a ghost. He was running from me. When I went inside, Lauren was sitting on the couch, eyes red, wiping at tears. She looked terrified. Broken. Small. Not because of guilt, but because she was losing control over both men she'd been juggling. She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked past her, upstairs, into my office. Door closed. On my computer screen, the folder was already open. Restoration Project, subfolder, Phase 2 collapse. And for the first time since all of this began, I felt calm, completely, unnervingly calmed up, because now the fall was close, very close. People think revenge feels like fire, explosive, uncontrollable, destructive. But the truth is, real revenge feels like winter, quiet, icy, a slow freezing of everything the other person once relied on. And by the time they realize it's cold, it's already too late. The final stage had started long before Lauren or Alan understood what was actually happening. There's a moment when a plan stops being effort and begins being momentum. Mine hit that point on a Tuesday afternoon, the day everything snapped. The day of the collapse. I was driving home from work when my phone lit up with an unknown number. I answered with the same calm voice I always used. Hello. Is this Michael Pierce? A woman asked. Yes, this is compliance and ethics. We need to inform you that your previous statement has been reviewed. The case is being escalated. I didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't show even a flicker of satisfaction. Thank you, I said simply. Someone from our investigative division will contact you shortly. She hung up. Less than 20 minutes later, a second call arrived, this time from HR. They wanted to speak with me in person, to confirm details. They didn't realize I was the wrong boyfriend. They thought I was an anonymous whistleblower reporting misconduct. Perfect. By the time I reached my street, a police cruiser was parked near the corner. Not for me, for the neighbors, but the flashing lights painted the houses red and blue. It made everything feel like a warning, a reminder of how fragile people's lives really are. Lauren's car was in the driveway, lights on inside, shadows moving, but I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the car for a few minutes, hands still on the wheel, taking my time, breathing, because I'd reached the moment of no return. And some part of me wanted to understand what it felt like before crossing it. It felt peaceful, detached, like watching someone else's life. She finally broke when I walked into the house. She was pacing back and forth near the window. Her mascara was smeared. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. She looked like she hadn't slept in 2 days. She spun toward me. Michael, where were you? Work? That's not, don't do that. Her voice cracked. This is serious. I hung my jacket, didn't respond. She rushed toward me. Did you say something? Did you tell someone? Alan's wife showed up at his office. HR called him in. Someone submitted documents. I walked past her, into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. She followed like a shadow. Michael, look at me. I finally did. Her eyes were red, wild, terrified. What did you do? She whispered. The truth. I didn't need to rub anything in her face. Didn't need dramatic monologues or confessions. She already knew. Her panic told me she knew exactly what was happening, and exactly who orchestrated it. So I said the coldest thing I've ever said in my life. I didn't do anything you didn't earn. She flinched. Actually flinched. Michael, you're destroying our lives. I set the glass down. Our lives. You destroyed this. You just finally get to feel it. She shook her head desperately. No, you don't understand. Alan is saying he's saying maybe you hacked something, or filmed something. Or, he can say whatever he wants, Michael, she whispered, stepping closer, grabbing my arm. I'm going to lose my job. I met her eyes. You already did. The words hit her like a bullet. She staggered back a step, hands trembling. That was the moment she understood. I hadn't ruined her life out of anger. I'd simply stopped protecting her. The phone call that ended everything at 8:14 p.m., her phone rang. She stared at the caller ID like it was a death sentence. It's HR, she whispered. I said nothing. She walked into the hallway to take the call, but her voice carried. Hello. Yes, I understand. I know, that's not. Please, wait, you have to believe me. No, that's not what happened. Her voice cracked out, then broke entirely. No, please. A long pause, a sob, then silence. She came back into the room like a ghost. They suspended me, she whispered. Pending investigation. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. There was nothing left to say. She looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Not guilt, not fear. Recognition that I was no longer the man she could manipulate, rely on, or bend. Recognition that I had become the consequence. Alan's collapseth. Next day, Alan's wife filed separation papers. His boss opened an official ethics review. Clients were notified privately. His team was reassigned. He was escorted out of the building. Not fired. Not yet. But finished. Completely finished. I didn't celebrate. There was no joy in it. Just the cold understanding that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent paperwork. Sometimes it's a meeting behind a closed door. Sometimes it's watching a man pack his office into a cardboard box. 2 days later, Lauren came home with a suitcase. Her eyes were empty. I'm going to stay with my sister, she said quietly. I nodded. She lingered, waiting for me to say something, anything, but I had nothing left for her. After a long silence, she whispered, Did you ever love me? I didn't look at her when I answered. I did. More than you knew. She swallowed hard. Then why did you do this? I finally met her eyes. Because you needed to learn what it feels like when a person stops covering the damage you create. She didn't cry. She was past that. She just closed the door behind her. And the house felt lighter. Quieter. Mine again. Aftermath. People think revenge ends with triumph. It doesn't. It ends with stillness. She lost her job. He lost his marriage and career. Their affair collapsed under the weight of its own filth. I didn't need to destroy them. I only needed to stop holding them up. And when I finally sat alone in my living room, the house silent around me, I realized something. I hadn't done anything monstrous. I had simply let truth do its work. And maybe that's the coldest revenge of all.